Hey friends, welcome to Math That Matters. I have been working on trying to get this dumb video from today's class to upload to the internet. I have tried so many things. I must have recorded at some high density level, but I have reduced the size multiple times. I've even turned it to an audio file. I've tried to get it onto my Google Drive, onto YouTube. It has been an absolute disaster, and I gotta say, I've been frustrated enough to think and probably say some bad things today. So I thought this will be another attempt. Maybe this won't even work, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you and I'm going to play the video on a Zoom meeting, and then I'll upload this video. So the quality probably won't be great, but I actually thought that the time with Ron Mock today talking about civility and talking about our final project with the debate, I thought that was really insightful and helpful. So let's see if I can share my screen here. I actually forgot to put my glasses on, so I can barely even see the screen. But at least I went outside and I mowed the lawn, which is one of those things that just always makes me happy. So I guess you have to find a happy place. Let's see. I'll give you the high quality video. At least you can see that. That's in here. All right. Now you can see how blind I am because I can barely see anything. All right, I'm going to play this video and we'll see how this goes.
If strengths of each side get eliminated and compared and deliberated about. So I don't know that you're ever supposed to concede a point in formal debate, forensic debate. I'm actually going to use your word here, Paul, that we argued about the other day. The idea that you should never concede a point. I don't think that's a situation we should have in a real debate. When somebody teaches you something, you should concede that you've learned it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you've just given up the whole debate. It may not even be that you've given up the point that they've made, but they've taught you something about that point that makes you reassess your own work. That's a good event. You want that. In the long run, you might come back to say, no, I was right in the right first place, and here's why. But at this point, you've had to advance your understanding of the situation to be able to do that. If a person can give you the situation where put you in a situation where you say, wait, I never thought of that. Hang on a second. I got to think this through again. That's when they're helping you. Obviously, unless they're lying or something, that's an issue. But as long as they are giving you good, solid information or pointing out something that maybe you should have thought of and you didn't, that's a thing you look for. And so I would hope that in a debate, when you're scoring people in a debate, Pete, that you don't punish them for conceding a point. My wife gets frustrated at me because she'll say something and I say, well, that might be true. And she says, no, it's true. I told you, you're supposed to agree with me. There's a supportive my wife point of view that I have to take, but there's also, I'm always looking at this. And because I tend to, because of a long experience of watching people in mediations and law courts and things like that, I tend to hold everything a little bit lightly, tentatively. Everything, all the way down to my fundamental faith, is held tentatively. And that's what faith is about. I don't absolutely know what's true about God and Jesus and so forth, but I have to act as if it's true or not. I don't have a choice. And so faith is acting on something, whether you know it's, even though you're not sure it's true. And so I will hold things lightly. When she says something about another person, so you can see, I said, well, that might be true. She's seeing it as undermining her, and I gotta be careful about that. But I will, she probably knows this by now, I will reserve final judgment until I hear more about that. And I think that's actually a useful attitude. It's complicated because you still have to act and you can't just let somebody suffer because you're not exactly sure what to do. So you'll have to sometimes just be bold. Maybe this is what Luther said, not what he said, stand and said boldly. I don't know what to do, but this person needs help. I'm going to see what I have to do and do what I have to do. And I might make a mistake. But the idea that I'm aware that I might be making a mistake, I think is useful because then I might make fewer mistakes. I might recognize them a little earlier. That's my hope. So a debate that allows for that would be good.
It's amazing how many scriptures keep coming to mind as you're talking, that be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, for anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires. And I can see that the scriptures have built the person, even as you discussed this.
So in a regular debate, you would never help your opponent, for example. And a lawyer is not supposed to help his opponent because it's seen as betraying his client's interests. So it's very difficult. Although lawyers, good lawyers, will still sometimes in chambers when they're talking to the judge outside of a jury per se, will say, might even suggest something for the other counsel to consider that the other would help the other counsel's case, because they need that. They're also agents of the court and trying to do truth. The good lawyers are. You don't have to worry about the lawyer's duties if you're not representing an actual client. So if you feel like your debate would be better because if the opponent hadn't really thought of something, suggest they think about it, or and ask for them to suggest things to you so that your debate can be better. If we're really thinking about trying to deliberate together and find the truth, we don't want to leave important data lying there ignored. Because we can, by ignoring that, we can set things up for what could be a disaster. The bridge that falls on people, or the social program that makes things worse rather than better, or I don't know, you think all kinds of things that you might make mistakes about it. You haven't considered a key point. Should my neighbor have spread weed killer all over his front yard? He wanted to get rid of the weeds in a hurry. Did he think about what he's doing to the fish in the Willamette River? I don't know. I actually don't know. But I would like to think he thought about that. He didn't talk to me first. Not likely to, but that's the thing, you think about that. Did you think about it? I don't know the answer to that. What's the risk for the fish in the river?
Yeah, it sort of revises the definition of a win. And I was just thinking that my experience as a lawyer was on the mock trial team in high school. I was a lawyer. And I remember the goal was, I loved cross-examination because you wanted to get your witness to mess up. And then you wanted to like elevate that, like just point it out. And it was all about winning. And I think that the deceiver, the one who wants to, the accuser, right? That's the name for Satan. The liar wants to steal, kill, and destroy, and he wants to reduce. And this is the complete opposite. We want to elevate. We want to expose the darkness. We want to walk into the light. So what I want to do is I want to spend a few minutes showing you the assignment that we've written up and what you're going to participate in. At this point today, your only assignment for what to do about this is to send Neil and I an email, and it says it on the project description, picking one of 5, actually, I think you're going to pick your top 4 out of 5 topics and the side, because there's a pro and a con on the side that I'll show you on the sheet. So we'll walk through that, and then Ron, if you have any comments about that, that'd be great. If anybody has questions at any point, or maybe while I'm setting up, if you have any questions for Ron, that'd be good. You want to do that?
Yeah, any questions? Sure. Amy, I don't remember you being in my classes.
I don't think I was.
So neither Pete nor Amy took my classes. Apparently they were afraid of me. I don't know.
You were kind of scary, Ron. I remember you being like up front, and I think you'd probably changed in 6 years. Is that fair to say?
Oh, let's hope so. I don't know that I could guarantee it. Yeah.
All right. Is there a reason?
Melanie is super nice, so you think it would rub off on me, right? So. Is that right? The Melanie's super nice? Yeah, you better say yes, because I might tell her. Anybody else have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
So do you think that like the mindset behind debates has changed in the past 40 years? Things have gotten more or towards one way or the other?
So in the last 40 years in the political world, the political science has been studying this. It's easily demonstrable that we are more polarized as a people, and that Congress is more polarized in Congress than we've been in 100 years at least, or maybe since the Civil War. The data is not as clear going back, but certainly in the last, since the 1960s, there's been a steady increase in polarization. That is, you have time for a little bit of it?
Yeah, go for it.
So one of the studies studies how often members of Congress from one party vote for a bill sponsored by somebody from another party. And the historical practice has been that happens relatively frequently when maybe a Republican and Democrat agree on this particular issue, they'll work on that issue together and get things done. One of the more recent examples of this was the No Child Left Behind bill. Now it's almost 20 years old now, but it was an education bill that Ted Kennedy, the liberal senator, and Orrin Hatch, a very conservative Senate, and President Bush, a pretty conservative president, all work together on to get something done. That hasn't happened much lately, and it has happened less and less. And furthermore, the other studies have shown that they tend to spend less time together, that a Democrat and Republican can go serving years in the Senate together, that's only 100 people, or in the House, which is bigger, and never actually have a social contact with each other, never do anything that's not business. There are a few institutions that still cross, the prayer breakfasts that still cross, but hardly anything else puts them together in the same place. And on January 6th, when they were all hiding from the people trying to storm the Capitol, the senators in particular, were all in basically one big area somehow. I don't know exactly where they were. And they were commenting on this was the first time they didn't have conversations across it. They were just stuck there, Republicans and Democrats in the same room. And some of them had their first conversations with members of the other party while they were in there, or the first ones in a long time. You kind of think that we ought to sentence them to go in there every day or something for an hour and just talk to each other. That has happened, and it's reflected in the population as well. The population is more polarized. So normally you should have a bell curve of, you guys have studied bell curves, you should have a bell curve of distribution on a particular issue of people's opinions. That would be the normal distribution. We have a lot of cases where there's the double bell curve. What do you call that?
Bimodal.
Bimodal, good.
Yeah.
Bimodal curves. And that means that we are getting into a weird distribution of opinions. And there's a lot of reasons for that, having to do with social media and pundits and stuff, and where we live, lots of things are driving that. So,
Yeah, divide and conquer seems to be a thing, right? Has been for a long time.
yeah, it's more moving in that direction. But that's why it's very concerning, because then you don't have any place to find your common ground and make progress.
Yeah. And hopefully at least we can figure out a way to be different and to do our part in approaching these things in a better way that can actually be less destructive. So
Let me say one thing. I've overstated. It's not a pure bimodal thing, but there's kind of a little dip.
Sure. Oh yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's just strange to me. It's almost like the current method is, if you have the power to do it, do it. And it doesn't matter. Like we're not being driven by principle. We're being driven by the ability, whichever side you're on. If you're in positions where you can do something, you do it. It's not about right and wrong. It's not about serving. And we talked earlier in the course about how Jesus said, I'm not like other leaders. They lord their power over you, but I have come as one who serves. And that's our model. All right, so here's the final project, and this will happen finals week. I started with a quote from Robert Baker. I believe America's political order is coming apart again. More and more we dehumanize our political opponents and treat them as evil enemies rather than fellow citizens. How can George Fox University, committed to following Christ and devoted to equality, justice, and democratic self-government, stand on the sidelines and watch this happen? We cannot. We cannot. So we're doing things like this, and like this ability project. So in our final culminating project in this class, you're going to be assigned a team, a topic, and a position for a debate. It'll be a team of probably 3 members. And here's what the debate will look like. Excuse me for a minute. So you're going to have 5 minutes for an opening statement. You're going to have a position. I'll give you the topics in just a minute. And your arguments must be outlined in PowerPoint, but also scripted on paper. This is just a 5-minute, basically almost like a persuasive speech, but everybody on the team has to participate in the opening statement. Within the argument, you must include expected oppositional arguments and counter arguments. And you must at least once ask the other side a question they're going to need to respond to. So both sides will give their little 5-minute thing. And then you have 3 minutes to rebut, 3 minutes to answer that question, or maybe reframe the information that came from the opposite direction. In 3 minutes, did your team address the questions from the other side? If you can identify fallacies, we are trying to find truth. So I think niceness is sometimes the extreme wrong on one side, which is bad. I think, like you said, we were made for disagreement. And if our primary virtue is niceness, we can choose to be nice to each other. But if it's at the expense of truth, the truth will set us free. And the devil can do all sorts of things with niceness. So I'm not saying don't be respectful. You should be respectful. You should be gentle. But sometimes there's this softness that is not strong. And the fruit of the Spirit that's gentleness means power under control. Like holding a baby. You want to be strong, not to drop the baby, but you also want to be tender. So there'll be a rebuttal section, and then Q&A. This will be the audience participation in asking questions from those presenting in the debate. We went through so many topics on what we could do for this debate, and we kind of landed on these 5. Primarily, this is a math class, and you do have to have some numeric or empirical data-driven argumentation. And so we went through, and I guess maybe we could even say this right now, but Ron, why do you think we landed here? These were 4 of your 5 recommends, and we took 1 from your second tier and replaced it.
So,
I didn't want to debate about homework because that might put me in an awkward position.
as a judge, it would be hard for you to judge that fairly, I understand. So what we were looking for were topics that were relatively high density in data as compared to sort of purely ethical considerations. I don't know how to put that. So that you would be able to ground most of your argument on actual data that would be available. I'm pretty confident there's data on all these things that will be useful to you, and so forth. So you see these statements. This doesn't mean that the class or PED is asserting any of these things are the truth. This is sort of a standard debating strategy. You posit something, and then you're accepting that there will be a lot of arguments pro and con. So this is sort of like a stating a hypothesis, and whether the hypothesis can be confirmed or not is what we're talking about. So there shouldn't be, I don't think there will be any bias towards saying masks cause more harm than good. It's just a proposition. Some people say that. So how would we know whether that's true or not? And that's the debate that people would be having. And so we try to do these in cases, and I'm not going to say where I think the data is or what time. That's your job to figure out, but where we think that it's fairly strong on data. One of the ones that was on the list was should euthanasia be legal?
Euthanasia,
Yeah, and so we had trouble figuring out how the data would resolve that case because it really comes down to a different kind of decision. So we left that off the list, for example. I put that way down and probably don't do this part.
Yeah, if we were in a philosophy class or a theology class or something like that, those are more suited for those kinds of discussions. But here we're in a math class. We just talked a little bit about statistics and numbers and fallacies and things like that. So we wanted you to be able to go out and, there's data in both directions that are claiming strength. And then the question is, can we go back to some of our principles for statistics and say, was the sample size adequate? Is this a hasty generalization? Where did they draw their data? Was there bias? Things like that.
So so 3 of these are about COVID. So there's lots of stuff out there.
Yes.
Pretty kind.
Yeah.
Even kinder than I would have been. So yeah.
So your job, as you can see right here, there's 5 topics and 10 positions. So affirmative is I agree with the statement. Negative is I disagree with the statement. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to put you on a team that's toward something you're interested in. So you're going to send Neil and me an email, and you're going to say, here are my top 4, but you have to give the topic and the side that you want to be on, and we'll try to get you together as well as possible. And I want you to do that by Tuesday at 5 p.m. so we can get the groups figured out by Wednesday. And then we're going to give you some kind of markers for, okay, by this date, you need to be done with this part of your stuff. By this date, we need to have you be done with this part of your project so that you don't wait till the last minute, which usually results in bad quality. And I'll send you out an announcement too through Foxtel reminding you of that. We will try to accommodate your preferences. Not everyone will get their first preference. And you'll see this too, but everybody needs to participate in the preparation as well as the verbal parts of the debate. And what will be graded, you can see here, is the opening statement. We're looking for a well-written, persuasive essay that handles the topic thoroughly, makes use of statistics and empirical evidence, and considers potential oppositional positions preemptively. I think it's really helpful to have a PowerPoint, so we're embedding that in one of the requirements, and you can use that during the debate, during the presentation, so that will be created. And then, of course, how you say it does matter. Even if you're reading it, you can read it well or you can read it poorly. So that will be a part of it. The rebuttals will be graded. Addressing the challenges, did you do that? Demonstrate clear in the moment thinking. So you might look at the composition of your team, and some people might think well on their feet. They might speak well, and you might sort of assign them that part of it. And others might be really good at writing and preparation. And I think that's a side benefit to this is learning to work together on a team. How you handle questions and answers from the audience and the other side. Are they intelligent and well-informed responses? And you can prepare for these things, right? You can think about them beforehand. They're probably going to ask us this. What are we going to say when they ask us this? So preparation typically has a lot to do with how successful things go. But we're also going to grade your civility. Were you thoughtful? Were your arguments characterized by gentleness and respect? Did you exercise the principle of charity, lifting the other side's argument to its best position possible? Did you fill in missing premises that were assumed or things like that? And as Ron mentioned, concession. Are you looking to find common ground? When you find it, are you willing to step forward and say, that was a really good point. I hadn't thought of that. Thank you. I think that's definitely something we're looking for. And also, I would say we're looking for clear and respectful definition where the differences do occur. So don't think that you'll be punished for saying, I think we've represented you accurately, other side. Have we? And then you clarify and you say, thank you for helping me understand this. Now I maybe agree with this part, but I definitely still do not agree on this other part. That's okay. In fact, I think that's healthy.
What you just demonstrated was something I teach in mediation, which is check with the other side to make sure, check with whoever you're listening to. Mediators listen to both sides. And so you want, as a mediator, for your own sake and for the sake of the other side, when somebody says something, you want to make sure you heard it correctly. I think I heard you say this, just like you just said. Did I get it right? That's one of the key listening skills that a mediator has to use, and I think it would be useful in the debate setting too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a pastor for many years and did a lot of marital counseling, and that's critical, right? You want to say, because someone will always say, well, this is what he said, or this is what she said, and the other person's like, you know, they're wanting to get on it because they're being misrepresented, at least in their understanding of it. So if we can cultivate an attitude and a practice of saying, this is what you said, isn't it? You know, I want to be fair to you. Good. And then we're also going to have some points associated with the audience being able to interact and participate, everybody getting a chance to ask a question, and we're going to have some interactions in writing too for this. And the hopes too is that we can include some of this within your civility project work on your side, so you can make use of our project, right?
Yeah. I don't know. So let's talk about this in one of them.
Yeah.
You've talked about the idea that maybe one or two of the better. Hey,
Yeah, we're going to
permission. We would ask the permission to students, but I wouldn't mind being put a video of one or two of them on the Civility Project website. So, because it would be an interesting application of civility ideas. So we'll ask you before we do that, but if that's one of the possibilities out there. Nobody will be on a public website without their permission, but we'll ask if there's. I mean, I'm looking forward to that possibility. It would be a real nice addition to what we do on the website. So.
Perfect. I like that. Any questions about the project? I know you'll be reading through this assignment. You can come back, you can watch this video again. We'll be sending out some announcements, but thus far with what we've presented, what do you wonder about? Go ahead.
You said like on each like debate topic, like you either agree or disagree, and then within that, like each team there's different positions. What is that?
Okay, so I guess I was just suggesting the possibility that within your team of say 3, you would discuss your strengths and weaknesses, and then maybe gravitate toward that part of the project. If you're a great researcher, a great writer, or if you just happen to be pretty good on your feet in public. We're not going to define those for you, but I think that it's helpful. Good. Other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So are we presenting in group?
Yeah, so your group will come up front and you'll give your 5 minutes, and then the other group will give their 5 minutes, or maybe we'll set up,
Yeah,
two
set up,
sides.
that'd be fun, set up 2 sides.
Yeah,
And some of you can get them all camera, but yes.
yeah, we could probably go wide. Go ahead, Dave.
I've had a lot of projects where students are required to like dress up for it, and the school will have to.
That's up to you. I would never.
I was gonna say, Ron dressed up for today.
Yeah, I've
so.
got my jeans on, one of my better pair.
I don't know. You know what? You know who's not here that really does care about a lot of those details? I bet you can guess. Hi, Neil. No, so, there are a lot of things that I just sort of overlook, details in life. My wife can tell you. She's right here. So a question like that, I just think, if you dressed up, I might not even notice that you did. But, good for you. Although Neil might say, well, yeah, of course they're going to dress up because this is important.
I'm gonna stay out of this. It's not my class.
Yeah, I think I better, this could cause me trouble at home. So thank you, Peyton, for asking the question. I'll answer it when Neil comes back. Good. Other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
How long should the written portion be?
That's a really good question. What I was thinking is you should practice saying it, and you have 5 minutes. And if it goes 3 minutes, you're probably in trouble because you didn't do enough. But if it goes like 5 or 6, that's probably okay. But if it goes 10, so I don't know how long writing something would be that lasts 5 minutes.
When I used to do radio news, which I did when I was a senior at George Fox, they had a link from the McMinnville station. I went into the gym someplace, the old gym, and I had 4 minutes I had to film, and it would be 3 pages double spaced.
3 pages, double spaced, 4 minutes.
I went over that, and they were on my case.
Yeah, and we won't hard cut you off, but if you're going over 6 minutes, that's going to be. We have to make sure that we can fit all these within the time frame. And we have a 2-hour time frame during finals week for this class, and then we're also going to fit the online class possibly into that, and maybe have another. Maybe we'll extend it to 3 hours or something good for everyone. Good. Other questions?
Don't go by my 3 pages double spaced. He says you should time it.
Yeah, just practice it. That's what I would do with sermons. So, really good question. And there will be time to ask more questions. Neil and I intentionally made this week pretty light on homework, and the topics are pretty easy and kind of fun. We're doing Fibonacci's on Wednesday and Friday. I think he's going to do a little art project kind of thing with the golden ratio and spirals, and just for fun. So this week is just like we've been grinding it out with logic. We're preparing for this big debate, and we're just going to do some kind of interesting math. And again, your assignment tonight is simply to send Neil and I an email telling us what you'd like to do with this debate. And I also know that some of you guys are working on the requalifier for points back on exam 2. So that's going to take a little bit of time. Though Peyton and I went through it this morning, and she got it done pretty easily and quickly, I think, right? It wasn't too bad. It was minimally hard. Let's see. I thought I was going to say one other thing, and then it escaped me. Does it have something to do with my age?
Let's see.
Anyway, this week is a little bit lighter. Ron, we've had some conversations over the past month or two, maybe, and I thought they were pretty civil. Would you agree that our conversations were
Sure.
in the order of the things you're trying to
Yeah, I
accomplish?
think so.
And do you want to bring up some of the things that we kind of maybe pushed against each other on, and how we dealt with that, or what were your impressions of those conversations?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the value of public education because I'm on the school board. Although this is funny because he was saying some of the things he says that has to say about public education. Not knowing I was on the Newbury School Board, and he was complaining about the Newbury school system a little bit, and I was just eating it up. I mean, I wasn't happy about what he's saying, and I disagreed with some of the things he was saying, but I thought, I'm just going to let him talk because this is my chance to hear from my constituents. He doesn't not couching it. He's just being honest. So what did you say? You explained why you were maybe going to have one of your kids go to politics. teacher or something?
Yeah, so we were talking, really, I had no idea Ron was on the Newburgh School Board. And I actually work for Newburgh High School, and I teach over there, and I have friends over there, and I like the kids over there and all of that. But one of the things that frustrates me is I feel like, I mean, well, I won't say this because it's on tape, but let's just say that kids can get through Newburgh High School and skip lots and lots and lots of classes, and you know who I'm talking about. And still do really well academically. Like the standards are really, in some of the classes, not my AP Calculus class, you gotta be good. But I think you can skate through in a lot of regular classes, non-AP classes, without really learning anything. Would you say that might be consistent with your experience in your high school? Like there are classes that are literally worthless because they don't ask you to do anything, it just takes up time. And it's frustrating. And that doesn't mean that the other schools it's necessarily way better at, but I've just experienced situations that were disappointing to me. So.
No, I mean, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you there. You're giving me a reading of the situation from your experience as a teacher and with your kids. And so it's disappointing to hear that and so forth. I think we talked about the options that should be available to parents to be able to take kids to private schools and things like that. The voucher idea, for example.
Yeah, you guys know what school vouchers are?
But the problem is we mostly agreed about that. So
Yeah, but it took us, I think the thing that's instructive about that is it took us clearly defining what we meant, because I said, I think school vouchers would be great. I mean, the school gets, what, $10,000 per student? So enrollment is a big deal. You get more money if you have more students. And that varies depending on what school you're talking about. And I said, well, what if they just gave parents a $5,000 voucher to go toward a private school,
yeah.
And then the state saves them $5,000, and then they give me $5,000, and that puts some pressure on the school to listen to my voice because I have like an economic vote. And you came back and you said,
I said first I agreed with the idea. The idea of giving parents an economic vote. But it needs to go to all the parents. You're using tax dollars that are paid for by everybody, including poor people. I mean, you would be privileged, you would be helping people who can afford to pay extra. You're subsidizing wealthy people to send their kids to better schools. And that doesn't seem fair. So we had this whole conversation. This idea, is that fair? So the way you make it fair is anybody who's taking these vouchers has to take any student. And you can't require extra money. They have to use, they give them the whole voucher. If it's 10,000, I don't think it's quite that much. But if it's 10,000 students, give the parents 10,000, but they can take it in school, but that school has to take anybody. They can't ask, oh yeah, that 10,000 is nice, give us another 3. You have to take it for 10 and it has to be all they pay. And that way, every family has access to the vouchers, not just the people who have extra money in the bank account. And I feel very strongly about that equity part of it, and that if we're asking taxpayers to pay for every taxpayer, every citizen, every resident, actually, we don't limit it to citizens, every resident should have the opportunity to use it. So that was an issue that came up when we talked about that.
And I didn't disagree with that. In fact, it brought richness and a completeness to what I was thinking, because I hadn't really even considered that very much. So, I think we ended up landing pretty close to each other on that, which was good.
It was fun to talk about.
Yeah. Sorry, I stuck my foot in my mouth. Thanks for letting me travel into that.
At some point in there, I was when I told you, yeah, well, I'm on the school board.
I mean, at the very least, I would have approached it with a lot more tact, but.
I don't think you would have been any better. I think because you got, no, I'm not saying that to diminish, because you were just big crank. You were never being disrespectful. You said some things that you're not getting on tape, but I didn't find them disrespectful. I wouldn't draw any conclusions about the particulars involved. You didn't mention any specific people, but I wouldn't draw any conclusions until they'd had a chance to say something.
Sure.
But to have citizens tell you their frank opinions and not be unreasonable about it, that's a rare event. So I was enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. Yeah, and thank you for coming in. It's been really, really rich. Every time you and I have talked, I feel like I come out understanding things better and appreciating your wisdom and your heart.
Thank
and
you.
I'm looking forward to working together.
Praise God. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody understand what's going on? I'll send you an announcement later today. We'll post this video if you need to watch it again. And come and see me and sign up for an office hour to fix up some points on that test, if that's okay. All right, friends, you have a great day.
And there it is. Well, I don't know how well that recorded, but as I mentioned, I spent 5 or 6 hours on this today, and I'm pretty much done with it. And if the quality of the video is not great, then come and talk to me, and you can bring a memory stick or something, and you can download it from my computer. But that's the best I can do, and I did give it a wholehearted effort. Let me know if you have questions, and I will look forward to seeing you soon.